You ever notice how sometimes the loudest people in the room don't really say much of anything, but it's the quiet ones, the ones off to the side, barely making a sound, who leave you thinking about them days later? That's how it started for me. I was just a worn-out recruit, covered in dirt, half dreaming about cold water and real food, when I first saw the old man by the fence. At first glance, he looked like a nobody beat-up boots, flannel shirt that had seen a few too many summers, cap so sun-bleached you couldn't make out a single word on it. He didn't cheer or jeer, didn't even shift his weight, just stood there with arms folded, eyes sharp, taking in the scene like he had nowhere else in the world to be. No one paid him any mind. Why would they? Just another relic, some local drifting in for free coffee and a dose of nostalgia. That's what people thought, at least. All except me. It was a Thursday, I remember, because Thursdays always sucked hardest. I was half dead, doing low crawls when I caught sight of him. Something about the way he stood perfectly still, not lazy, but purposeful, stopped me. Then I saw the tattoo peeking out beneath his sleeve. It wasn't some barbed wire cliché or a souvenir from spring break. No, this was old, faded, but you could tell whoever put that ink there, it wasn't for decoration. It was a badge, the kind you earn, the kind nobody could ever take from you. In that moment, my gut told me what my brain hadn't figured out yet. This man didn't just belong here, this place belonged to him, in a way none of us understood. Every Thursday, he showed up. Always early, always alone, truck rattling into the same dusty lot before even the instructors arrived. He never spoke, never crossed the line onto the field, just leaned on that old fence post like it was holding him up, or maybe the other way around. There was a limp in his walk, like his right leg never healed right from something that happened a long time ago, but it never looked weak. It looked like a memory carried just beneath the skin. The young recruits never noticed. The older ones made jokes, said maybe he was here to haunt his own ghosts, pay penance for old sins, I don't know. But the instructors? They never laughed, and they never asked him to leave. There's a kind of respect you don't put into words at places like this, and whatever he'd done, he had it. No stripes, no badges, just that cap, that stare, and when the wind kicked up, sometimes a flash of that tattoo. That particular Thursday, the air was thick with heat and dust, drills echoing across the yard, bodies dropping, metal scraping, the usual misery. But I wasn't watching my form, I was watching him. The way his eyes scanned the field, tracking us, not like a spectator, but like someone who could see a mistake before you made it. His jaw would clench a little when someone slipped up, not angry, not annoyed, just remembering. Like his muscles still remembered what ours were learning for the first time. That afternoon, I stayed behind after the others filtered out, drawn by something I couldn't explain. I found myself near his truck, just standing there, not close enough to bother him, but close enough to see him pour the last of his coffee from a dented thermos, gaze fixed on the empty course. He didn't say a word, didn't even look at me. He just climbed into his truck, closed the door softly, and drove away, leaving nothing behind but the sound of gravel crunching under old tires. I couldn't shake it. That night, I barely slept. I kept seeing that tattoo, that glance, that silence. I'd seen all those stories online, people faking valor, playing pretend with borrowed medals, but nothing about this man felt made up. He was unforgettable because he did nothing to stand out, and yet I couldn't ignore him. Sometime around 2 a.m., I found myself hunched over a laptop, still grimy from the day, searching for any scrap of information. Old recon vet tattoo. Silent observer base visitor access. Nothing. Visitor logs. Old personnel lists. Most were redacted, buried behind clearance I didn't have, until I finally found a line in the archives. Thomas Harrow, status, retired authorized observer, non-instructional. No photo, no story, no service record, just a note cleared for silent observation, no engagement. Renewed every year, no expiration date. That kind of access? Nobody got that unless they were someone. I dug deeper, found his name buried in an old memo from decades back, describing him as a foundational consultant for recon training. No rank, no details, just a ghost of name. One last TNA forgotten entry in an oral history archive. Recon Unit 2, Deep Territory Ops, 1970. Debrief denied. Outcome classified. Field lead. Hero. That was it. No answers. Just the sense that someone had worked very hard to keep it that way. The next Thursday, everything seemed normal, but the air felt different. Instructors were quieter, more precise. The drills snapped sharper. One instructor, ribbons buried deep in his file, slowed down, glanced at the fence, and froze. Didn't say a word, just nodded to himself, and kept walking. Two others followed, sharing a look, silent as old soldiers sharing a secret. By the end of the day, I realized I wasn't the only one watching him anymore. And then it happened to break in routine, so small you might have missed it. One instructor, known for never bending the rules, walked over to the fence, stopped 10 feet away, and stood at attention. Another joined, and another, lining up quietly. Nobody told them to. Nobody had to. They just knew. The old man turned to leave, and someone called out, "Sir, would you consider speaking to the recruits next week?" He paused, barely glanced back, and said, "Nothing to say." Then he left, as always, leaving nothing but dust behind. The compound returned to normal, or looked like it did. We carried on with drills and routines, but something had shifted. I found myself at the fence more often, standing a little straighter, watching the instructors with new eyes, feeling the weight of that tattoo, that silence. One night after lights out, I whispered to the others, "We should mark that spot. Lane 4, fence line." Nobody joked. Nobody asked why. We just did eat a small brass plaque, hand-polished, bolted above eye level on the fence. No name, no rank, just a few words, reserve until he says otherwise. He came back the next week. Same boots, same jacket, same slow walk. He paused at the plaque, read it, didn't touch it or acknowledge it, just turned back to the field and kept watching. But now, every recruit who passed that spot straightened their back, not because they knew his name, but because they felt what he represented. Weeks went by. Stories started drifting. Someone had seen the tattoo in a faded old photo. Someone else remembered hearing a rumor. His name, Thomas Harrow, started to slip out, quietly, always from someone else, never him. And then, one Thursday, he just didn't come. No announcement, no explanation. The spot by the fence was empty. A week passed, then another. The plaque stayed, and people started to linger a little longer when they passed it. It wasn't grief, it was respect for an absence that felt bigger than his presence ever had. One night, near the end of training, I found myself alone at lane 4, standing where he used to stand, arms folded, eyes ahead. It wasn't the same, but it was something. Then I noticed an envelope taped to the back of the plaque, my name on it, just Myers. Inside, a coin, heavy and old, one side etched with that quiet symbol, the other with 2 words, "Still watching." No one ever said who left it. Nobody needed to. Some people don't retire or ask to be remembered, they just fade into the lives they've shaped. No medals, no monuments, just silence and the kind of discipline that lingers long after they're gone. Some warriors leave behind awards. The rarest ones leave behind presents. They don't tell their stories. They just watch, waiting to see if anyone's paying attention. If you've ever crossed paths with someone like that, someone whose silence teaches more than any speech ever could say their name, let their silence be heard. And if this story hit home for you, drop your thoughts below. What do you think? Is it the loud ones who leave the mark, or the quiet ones who really shape us? Let's talk about it.